This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Matt, so I know you're all pro tariffs.
Yeah, right.
You love the tariffs.
He's being sarcastic. I am not. And I've talked to a lot of economists, smart guys, who say that tariffs are not a good idea. Conservative podcaster from the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro, he thinks tariffs are a bad idea. Who's the guy who's Bill Gates' best friend, billionaire Warren Buffett says it's a terrible idea to create these tariff wars, that Donald Trump is asking 25% tariffs on the United States and Canada, and China is upping their retaliation and increasing tariffs. And so this tariff war, from the folks that I've talked to, say this is bad for the economy. And the National Association of Home Builders just came out and said that this is going to increase the cost to build a home anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000. I think it was the Ford Motor Company who said it could add $4,000 minimal to each vehicle. So I don't see how this is going to be good, at least in the short term, immediate short term, at least while Donald Trump is in the White House, how this is going to help the economy and bring down inflation.
Well, what people are doing is they're talking about only tariffs. Like they're acting like that's the only lever in the entire economic spectrum to pull here. And they're also projecting on what's going to happen. It's not like what is happening, what has happened with these tariff rules, or they're projecting with what's going to happen. And so, for example, like if Canada doesn't want to have a 25% tariff, well, then stop tariffing us. Like all of a sudden, the problem's gone overnight. People were like, there's no way Trump's going to be able to stop all these people from coming over the border and do all these. Well, I just read a report that in the last, 25 years, illegal border crossings are the lowest they've been in the last 25 years. But at the time, they're like, that's impossible. That's never going to happen. And now here we are, a short month into it, and they're at the lowest they've been in 25 years. So when people are, I think a lot of that's fear mongering, and I'm also curious where that money's coming from. So yeah. So if China is in China's the main culprit here. I think that's really who Trump's going after, is China. But when it comes to like affecting the housing market, okay, well, what people tend to pivot to is, well, maybe we can bring that home. Maybe we can, those companies can come here. Maybe we have the resources here for the lumber rather than getting it from Canada. But that's not the only cost in building a house, is the lumber or the raw materials. There's cost in the labor, and there's lots of cost in regulation.
Sure, I get it,
just
but it's a part of it.
So correct. So instead of just focusing on the one part, okay, let's say the tariffs are having a negative impact on the overall cost of building a home. You want to improve home affordability. Well, then let's reduce some of the unnecessary regulations that already have a chokehold on.
I get it,
building.
but let's look at it from a business. Let's say a home builder, right?
Yeah.
And they've got to bring in lumber. What else did they say? Drywall, appliances, all of those things that they have to purchase in order to complete this home construction.
Yeah.
It's costing them 25% more, not altogether, but on those specific products, right?
Okay.
And so they're not gonna eat that. They're gonna pass that on to the consumer.
But you're acting like the consumer is just mindlessly going to buy all this stuff. Like the consumer is the ultimate decider. Are they going to want to buy a house at that price point? Or is the builder going to have to figure out a way to reduce costs? If the builder can't do it, is the government going to figure out a way for the builder to reduce their costs? Like people.
I get it.
The consumer's just going to mindlessly, okay, I'm just going to buy a more expensive car. No, they're not going to buy a car. They're going to look for another option.
Then don't you think that will reduce consumer spending? If inflation goes up because importing is more expensive, then that just gets passed on to the consumer. Does inflation go up?
The market's a moving thing. It's not just black or white, tariffs or no tariffs. There's all these different, in a free market, there's all these different opportunities for people to come in and solve the problem.
Sure, I get that in the long term, right? But immediately, I'm just looking at
really quick. I mean, again, using the Trump example. I mean, there's been with illegal immigration. There's people who are now saying they're going to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in the U.S. in the next 4 years, right? that's automatically creating jobs. Inflation's a problem. Inflation is an unseen tax. It's an unseen tariff, and it's the government that creates inflation by printing uncontrolled for trillions and trillions of dollars. They are essentially tariffing the American people, and nobody's even and no other government. So if you reduce the cost of the amount of government spending, if you reduce that down, that's going to have a deflationary impact on the economy, which could also offset the cost of these tariffs.
Right. I don't think anybody has a crystal ball. I think it's going to be a wait and see what happens.
Absolutely.
Obviously, if these tariffs actually go through and there's no kind of negotiation between the countries, I wouldn't say necessarily China, but definitely Mexico and Canada. And I'm just basing this on information that I've received from smart economists and from companies who say yes.
I'm just a dumb real estate broker, but I'm confident. I'm confident in the American spirit and the American drive to find solutions. And I think the conversation is more complex than tariff or no tariff.
Yeah, well, we're curious. What do you think? Johnny would love to hear from you, whether you think he's right or I'm right. I'm sure most people think you're right, though.
I hope so.
What's the phone number?
The phone number where you can reach out to us is 855-935-MORE. That's 855-935-6673. Or you just Google Made for More Realty and type in tariff in the chat box, and we'll know who you are. Thanks, Matt.